Good evening, and welcome to Her Reflection, a special broadcast exploring how women are seen and how they see themselves in today's digital media. I'm Cass, and tonight we're diving into the screen and beyond to examine how gender and representation intersect into two of the most powerful and profitable cultural influences: social media and video games. What does it mean to be visible online, to be hyper-feminine or unseen? Is self-care real or just branding? And why, in 2025, is Princess Peach still getting kidnapped? Today, our program will take you through 4 segments that look across the digital sphere to uncover the reality that women are facing today and answer how are real and fictional women being represented in new media. Joining me are our field reporters Jiabao, Shintong, and Stephanie. Each of us will be diving into different facets of digital representation to report our findings on how the world sees women and how that affects how we see ourselves. We begin tonight in the streets, where a Gen Z feminist movement is quietly gaining traction. It's called voiceover, and it's all about stepping back from relationships to focus on mental well-being. Apparently, I've been ahead of the trends for years, am I right, ladies? Now to Jiabao with the story.
Thanks, Cass. I hit the campus to talk with women about the voiceover lifestyle. What I found, it is not only a dating trend, but it is a statement. Here's they had to say.
Now you know like a little bit about this trend. Like, how do you understand it?
I think it's like saying to decenter like men in your life. Like that's a big thing right now where women are trying to stop living and like dressing and existing to like appeal to the male gaze and so I feel like that's kind of in line with that, like just cutting out boys because honestly like there's not a lot of guys don't go up to girls anymore or anything these days, so like I'm basically boy sober anyways, but like not my choice. So
So you have like intentionally practiced voiceover.
I don't think I've ever intentionally practiced it, but I guess sometimes if I'm like in a mood where I just like don't want to hang out with guys, I just won't talk to them. But I never knew the name for it.
Do you think like voiceover is a positive change or an extreme social trend?
I think it depends how like people take it. I feel like it could be positive, like take a break from guys, like just focus on yourself. Because they usually aren't thinking about what girls think. Guys just walk around la 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 and like we're always like, oh my god, are we pretty, are we blah blah. So yeah, I think it's good, like just to focus more on ourselves and let romantic relationships like come when they do. And
Do you think this trend will like prevent some toxic relationships?
for sure, yeah, I mean just like not talking to guys prevents toxic relationships unless you talk to them. So for sure, and I think like the more you like don't talk to them and you get used to not needing like male attention and praise, it's easier for you to like take a man who's shitty because you have higher standards, because you're okay without them, so then you won't be like so quick to just say okay to the first date that comes your way.
Thank you. Do you understand the term of voiceover trend?
I've never heard of it at all, I'll be honest. But I mean, first time hearing it, the impression that it gives me is just being independent from males, I guess.
Yeah, but like this trend is very like popular during last year on Instagram.
And would explain. I don't typically use social media outside of like this.
Okay. Like, have you ever like intentionally practiced voiceover?
I mean, not really, no. I mean, the center of my life has like kind of really been away from social relationships in the first place, so not intentionally, but sure, I guess I have.
And do you think like this? Oh, because I think a lot of people, they will do a lot of dating, so this is what they do, like to like intentionally like prevent date from others, like to be more focused on their life. And do you think voiceover trend is a positive change or an extreme social trend?
I think it being a trend kind of puts me off, but it is an idea. I don't think it's that, because people need their like individuality, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think.
Hi. Have you heard of the term voiceover?
No.
So a voiceover, like it is refers to a movement like primarily among women to take a break from romantic relationships. Like, how do you understand it?
I think it's good for some people to like focus on themselves and like prioritize their own mental health and physical health and everything, and focus on school and stuff. Yeah.
Have you ever intentionally practiced voiceover?
No, I haven't, but I see the importance of it.
During a street interview, have you ever heard the term of voiceover?
Yes, I've heard about it. From what I understand, it means avoiding romantic or emotional involvement for a certain genre.
Have you ever intentionally practiced voiceover?
Yes, I have. I feel like I was prioritizing men over my own well-being, so I decided to take a break.
Okay. Do you think voiceover is a positive change or an extreme social trait?
I think it depends on how it's practiced. If it's about self-improvement, and I think then it's great. But if it's about hating men, it might be
Thank you.
We're healthy or helpful training for women today?
I think it's a very healthy mindset. It encourages self-worth and emotional independence. For a lot of girls, especially younger ones, dating becomes a way to validate themselves. But voiceover says they don't need someone else to define your value. That's powerful, of course. I'm not saying never date again, but taking intentional time away from romantic distractions can really help you grow.
Voiceover isn't just about absence, it is presence. Back to you, Cass.
As women log off from romance, they are logging on to self-care. But what does #wellness really mean online? Jintong joins us with a report on the rise and critique of the Instagram wellness space.
Thanks, Cass. My research question is, I analyzed the popular posts under the #WellnessCanada and designed a series interview question to interview users from different backgrounds. I show each of them this post and they talk about their thought and experience. I divided my interview to 3 parts, each with a different theme. Let's see what these 3 young women living in Canada have to say about it.
You see on Instagram these perfect girls, they wake up at 5 a.m. They have breakfast, but they eat a certain thing. They drink water before they eat their breakfast. Maybe they drink a lemon water, and then they have to sleep at a certain time. Make sure to get like an hour worth of walking. Like also go to your class and also write in a journal. There's like so many like things, lists of things that you're supposed to do to be this healthy queen.
There's a lot of feeds that really show very, I want to say, healthy women who have low body fat, who have, muscles that are easily shown, or who are very thin. And that is not a standard that is easy to maintain. So part of the reason I actually got rid of Instagram was because I found that it was impacting the way that I thought about myself. I was seeing all of these pictures of people's lifestyles or people's bodies that were not healthy for me to be looking at.
I feel like seeing all the posts on Instagram has helped me view it in a positive way because it shows me all the different types of ways that I can implement it in my everyday lifestyle. Like I can have one sugary snack in my lunchbox but have fruit or oatmeal and add sugar in that too to just help me.
This healthy post seems to present an overly high standard that is even unhealthy. As healthy women, there are many things to do every day. Although you can learn something from the post, but many posts also bring pressure to women.
For me, my body type as well, I don't see it as much in a lot of the posts of the wellness and fitness and all that. A lot of them are just all skinny girls, and I come from the Dominican Republic where there's a lot of curvy girls. We have a lot of hips, so we're not the skinniest, and it's not easy to stay skinny or get skinny. And also I work 2 jobs, so it's kind of hard to have that lifestyle when I'm extremely tired after a whole day of working 2 jobs. It's hard to keep it up with the salad, no sugar when I need energy.
So you need to eat some food make you happier, like comfort food?
Yeah, like bubble tea.
I see the bubble tea. Thank
Brown
you.
sugar bubble tea, a lot of sugar. Large.
A lot of those feeds are based off of white women. And as a white woman myself, even there, it's like I am a curvier person. I have naturally more body fat than that. I would have to eat so little and have so little fats and like everything in my diet that it would be insane to try and maintain that, let alone I'd have to work out like hours every day.
It's in a way like not always achievable to like even women like me. I'm not blonde, nor am I a Pilates queen, or like other women of color where their body isn't the way it's shown in like these videos.
When we're looking at Instagram, a lot of the time we are seeing women who can afford a certain lifestyle. I think that it definitely has a lot to do with the economical standings of different people. If you are living off of a meager budget and you are trying to just budget out eating these fruit bowls and these smoothies with this high protein lunch and no carbs, that's really expensive. it's very unrealistic for a normal person to think about doing all of that when they have a full-time job or they're a student and they're working part-time, and you're really just trying to be as healthy as you can be.
Makes a lot of women who aren't doing those things feel like they're not healthy, they're not their best self, they're not strong, they're kind of like maybe even shunned on. Like, it seems like not as inclusive. It seems very exclusive to like a small population of women who look and also do the things that is needed to be done to be considered health.
For women who are not white and economically disadvantaged, this health content can be frustrating and burden. Even white women who not fit the body type portrayed in this post can feel this negativity emotional too.
I think it creates a stereotype for women in a negative way, because sometimes women can't always follow the trend or the lifestyle that is posted online. Like maybe they have a health condition or medical condition that makes it difficult for them, and then that can lead to them being depressed or sad, or they might not have the money to fund that lifestyle. So then they just end up either depressed.
It's become more realistic to think, oh, well, these people on Instagram, that's real people. These are their actual lives. This is their actual body, and this is how they achieve it. Whereas a lot of the time it does still have to do with a lot of filters. You know, they're showing the best day. They're showing first thing in the morning before they've had anything to eat and before they're bloated, or they're showing right after the workout when everything is super toned. And it's not necessarily a realistic expectation, but women really do want to feel that it is, or we internalize it to be more realistic than mass media.
Social media and like society in general is becoming more open into accepting and acknowledging that not all women look the same, not all women need the same things. So there is already a doorway to be making it more inclusive for women. But I think like there's still such a big part of social media or the world that thinks that the women should still look like a Victoria's Secret model. I think society is still wrapping their head around that, and that has opened the doors to more accepting beauty standards, like that everybody's different. But I think it's so hard, especially when society is also run by men who want women to look a specific way for themselves too.
After analyzing the interview, I found that wellness may be aesthetic, but ideology runs deeper. Back to you, Cass.
Video games have shaped not only how we play, but how we see the world around us. In this segment, Stephanie compares traditional and modern games to explore how changing representation of gender in gaming might influence players' views on real-world gender norms.
Hello everyone, I'm Stephanie, and today I will explore how video games shape our perception of gender roles. Over time, the representation of gender in games has evolved. In the past, heroes were almost always male, and the female characters were often depicted as themselves in distress. But today, many games are breaking these stereotypes and offering more diverse and complex portrayals. We will compare classic and modern games to see how these changes are influencing our view on gender and their impact on real-world attitudes.
Oh, it's Mario again! Briefly jumping and running to rescue the princess. He does this every time. Why it is always him? Of course it's not just Mario. Link is also out there on his quest to save the princess.
Oh, it's such a classic mission. Rescue the princess in distress. Defeat the big bad villain.
In the vast desert, danger looms as masked assailant close in on the princess. Just when all seem lost, the hero arrives, sword drawn, ready to save the day. She sits still, he takes action, a familiar narrative we have seen time and again.
We apologize for the interruption. It seems like our connection to the past has been compromised. Fortunately, we are now receiving a live feed from the present, where female characters are no longer just waiting to be rescued. They fight, they lead, they carry the story. Okay, let's take a look at two characters of the game, Ellie and Aloe.
Two battles, two women, two ways of fighting for survival. On the left, Ellie, fueled by anger and desperation. On the right, Aloe, calculating, calm, and focused. Different styles, different worlds, but neither of them waits to be saved. heroes, not sidekicks, not love interests, not someone else's motivation. Seeing characters like this, powerful, central, complex, it makes you wonder how we have been shaped by the games we grew up with.
Hey CJ, I've been recently thinking about how video games shape the way we see gender during our growing up time. So when you were a kid playing video game, did you notice how male and female characters were portrayed?
Yeah, but honestly, I didn't really notice it when I was a kid. Most of the game at that time, just have the same kind of storylines. Like guys were always the warriors, knight, and heroes, and the girl were just weak, passive, and waiting to be saved. Now that you mention it, I realized it was so wrong. It's a super one-sided and really reinforces the gender stereotypes.
Yeah, I totally felt the same way as a kid. I never really questioned it because that's just how most games were back then. But now seeing more and more games where women are main characters, not just there to be rescued, it really feels like things are shifting. And do you think seeing more strong female leads in game has influenced how you view gender equality in real life?
Yeah, of course. Like, do you know the game called the Horizon Zero Dawn? Yeah, the main character is a girl named Aloy. She's strong in combat, super smart, and also a good leader. As a female character in the game, she's not weak, passive, or sexualized. She's powerful and capable. And I really love her so much because of the Aloy. I admire the female strengths even more and hope to become a woman like her. She's completely breaks the sexist idea in the game that only men are strong or only the men are meant to be fight and the lead.
Yeah, I love her too. And she's not the typical female characters, right? Like you said, she's powerful because she has her own skills and not because someone else says she is. And it makes me wonder if games keep showing strong male and more passive female ones. Could that still shape the way players see gender roles, especially younger players?
Yeah, I think about this a lot too. And my answer is definitely yes. Like these portrayals in games absolutely influence how people see gender, especially the young players, like the kids. They don't have like the same critical thinking as adults, so they will like absorb all this messaging from the game without question about it. For example, my younger brother, when he was in high school, he just used to play games full of the traditional game roles. He started thinking men are natural leader or somehow superior. So he would often boss around my mom or sister or even me, expecting us to do things for him. So I believe if the games keep showing the gender on this way over time, it will definitely shape how players, especially the young generation, understand about the gender roles.
Thank you for sharing. So, from classic stereotype to more progressive portrayal, it's clear that gender representation in video game has come a long way, but there's still work to do. The stories we play don't just reflect our world, they can also shape it. Thank you. Back to you, Cass.
Now, let's look at how representation starts on the shelf. Our final report takes a deep dive into how female characters are featured on the box art of popular Western video game companies, and what that means for the players. Let's roll the footage. From the streets of ancient Greece and Assassin's Creed to the stars of the Milky Way and Mass Effect, we are finally seeing women protagonists in video games. Or are we? The answer is more complicated than it seems. I began my research because of an offhand comment I heard. Someone had said to me, "No one ever talks about how male characters are put onto the covers of video games, and never women." And I initially thought, that can't be true. I pride myself on being a feminist and a gamer, and I've written many such papers within that intersectionality. And from globally banned games to Gamergate, I thought I knew all there was to know about gender disparity in games. But here I was with this phenomenon that I knew nothing about, and had failed to notice all these years of gaming and research. As I began to look into this, I found that the literature was sparse and often just didn't hit the mark with what I was trying to uncover. There's plenty to see on the over-sexualization of female characters and how they've been reduced to stereotypes, never at the center role within the narrative. But no one was focusing on the playable female character. Now, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of developing companies out there, and there are dozens of consoles and platforms to play video games on. Enough that I can spend my entire life researching and analyzing them, and I still wouldn't be able to keep up with the sheer volume of games being released every year, so I had to narrow my scope. Two popular video game franchises in the Western world are the Assassin's Creed series and the Mass Effect series, developed by Ubisoft and BioWare respectively. Both of these series, in many, though not all titles, allow you to choose between a male and a female character as your protagonist. We'll come back to this later, but this is the jumping off point for my research. I didn't want to just look at a few cases of games where the male character was featured on the box art and generalize from there. I wanted to dive in and get some clear statistics that could indicate an actual pattern occurring in the gaming industry. Unsurprisingly, I was unable to find any pre-existing statistics on this phenomenon, or that looked at the game's playable female gender choice at all. Now, Ubisoft is a large company with an increasing global reach, and even narrowing down my search to games developed by them and their subsidiary companies, which shared the Ubisoft name, there were still hundreds of games to sort through all the way back to the 80s. So to get a better understanding of research trends, I took the 60 most recently released titles beginning in 2018, which I felt would reflect the current climate of the video game industry. For BioWare, the case was slightly different. This company is much smaller and only had 19 titles for me to analyze. But this company is locally based right here in Edmonton, and is often recognized for its progressiveness, at least in terms of gender representation. So now that we have our sample, let's get into the statistics. First, for our overall look at the titles, Ubisoft had 40% of games featuring female characters on their box art. BioWare had 26%. 28% of Ubisoft titles excluded females entirely, 47% for BioWare. Now, we should get into some more specifics. When looking at games that actually allowed player choice between male and female characters, this changes our statistics a bit. So 76% of Ubisoft games allowed for gender choice, and 89% of BioWare games let you select between male and female. Now, if we look at these games just within that scope, we see a change in our statistics. So now we have 50% of Ubisoft games featuring female characters on the cover, and 29% for BioWare. At a first glance, these numbers may seem promising, that, hey, women are actually being included on the box art, but still not to the same extent as men. It's better than nothing, right? What this analysis actually had me stumble upon was that there were no games that included only female characters on the cover. In fact, none of the games at all featured just a female character as the sole protagonist. There were plenty of games that featured a male protagonist with no questions asked. You could pick a male and sometimes have the choice for a female, but the rest was up to the developers. But what this analysis had me stumble upon was that there were no games that included only the female character on the cover. In fact, none of these games featured a female character as the sole protagonist at all. There were plenty of games that featured a male protagonist with no questions asked, no need for a female choice. So really, what this tells us is that the male character is the default, and being a woman comes as a secondary thought to developers. If we really want to play as a female, maybe we will be lucky enough that we are given the chance. But for men, it is always a given. Of course, there are games out there that this is not true, like the Tomb Raider series, but that is an entirely different conversation with much more nuance and complexities. This really becomes a question if what these game developers are doing is because of equality and respect for the role of women, or simply because this is being done as a matter to appease us, so we feel as though we have some agency within the gaming world. Now, earlier I mentioned the Assassin's Creed and Mass Effect series. These are an interesting case because they do allow for male and female characters as your protagonist. But in both cases, for Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Mass Effect 3, which feature this choice, the cover art for these feature only the male protagonist. And there are alternate versions which exist, but these are as an inverse to the box art that is presented. So we have our game case, which has our cover on it, and then if you were to remove it and flip it around, or put in a separate insert, you'd be able to feature the female character. But as I said before, this is making the female character seem as a secondary choice to the male. The male is the default in every instance. So what this leaves us with is a question of, when you are always the second choice to a man, are you really considered their equal? Thank you. Back to the studio. We've seen the screens, we've heard the stories. Now let's bring everyone together back in the studio and hear her reflection.
In interviews, I found that almost all of the women I spoke to consider the Boys Sober movement to be a positive one. Whether they participated in the movement or were hearing about it for the first time, after learning about it, they all have positive things to say. One interviewee pointed out that today's women are trying to break away from the male gaze, that is, too decentralized. And this interviewee thinks this is a trend. I'm glad to hear that so many women have this kind of awareness.
Yes, I think in this case, after the rise of the post-feminism, women have changed a lot in terms of how they view themselves. I really like the term decentralization. I think women can move from the margins to the center, get more and more say, including in the media, and the representation of women has also improved.
By comparing classic games with modern ones, we can see how gender roles in gaming have changed significantly. The rise of strong female protagonists reflect not only the progress of the gaming industry, but also influence players' perception of gender roles.
I agree, we are getting better. Taking Instagram as an example, we already have more female representation compared to before. Although it is still dominated by white women, but diversity female representation will be the trend.
Yeah, and in the discussion with my friend, we can also notice that despite the progress made, challenges still remain. Gender stereotypes are still present, but they are often represented in new form within modern games.
That's a good point. We are seeing an increase in female representation, there's no denying that, but this is just at the surface level. We must now ask if this representation is good and fair. And from what we've seen today, it's not entirely, not yet at least.
One of the most striking parts of my research and interviews was how the female image was made even more stereotyped by social media. In this case, that is Instagram. Women can be diverse, but there seems to be only one image of healthy women on Instagram posts. In my interview, Jackie mentioned that is why she chose to give up using Instagram.
Yes, totally. Instagram is showing more female representation, which is great. But like in games, it still leans towards certain beauty standard. So while we are moving forward, both social media and games still need to push for more authentic and inclusive gender representation.
Yeah, and I think what's even more harmful is how these platforms don't just reflect beauty standards, they reinforce them through algorithm. Like the more a certain body type or aesthetics gets likes and engagement, the more it shows up, creating this cycle where diversity gets pushed to the margins. It is not just about who gets represented, but also how often and in what way that can really mess with how young women see themselves.
Yeah, in my interviews, our interviewees mentioned that the image of healthy female representation on Instagram is like diversity, and some of them, the image is not real. This puts pressure on other women, that is, the women who are not represented by these images. For example, some women of color are naturally curved body and cannot achieve the body shape of bloggers through dieting. Some girls follow the advice of the healthy bloggers but do not achieve the exact result. There are so many lifestyles of these healthy women are difficult to copy in your real life. For example, it is difficult for a woman with a full-time job to go to Pilates class 4 times a week. When they are tired from work, they just want to eat comfort food instead of salad. After browsing through so many posts and discussion with these girls, I want to ask, is the image of women on social media real? Do the bloggers really post their real lives on Instagram, or do they pick the best parts? This not only creates stereotypes, but also gives the pressure of some women. One of my interviewees also mentioned that the image of women on social media is shaped and displayed by men, and she believes that some aspect of our healthy and beauty cater to men's aesthetics.
You know, that kind of aligns with my own findings as well. It seems we're always looking at women in relation to men, and we are seeing that this gender binary has become so ingrained in our society, which is very restricting to women because men are often the ones who set the standards, and we as women are unable to see ourselves and be seen as individuals making decisions without first considering the role that a man has played.
Yes, exactly. That is actually what made me start thinking about this idea of being boy sober. Like, what it means to completely detach our self-image, our choices, and even our house routine from the male gaze. I think so much of what we do, skincare, fitness, even how we post online, is subconsciously shaped by what we think men will find being attractive. Being boy sober to me means becoming aware of that influence and trying to reclaim that space for ourselves.
Well folks, this has been an insightful night. I hope you learned something and feel just a little more seen. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we'll see you next week on Her Reflection, where we seek to answer, are women even real? Until next time, support women's rights and their wrongs. Good night.